So part of our training and approach, and really this should be the approach of all coaches. I'm just going to put that out there, a blanket statement. Our standard should be to remain curious and non-judgmental. And so that's the frame of reference I try and go at. There are going to be people that me as a coach that are going to should me. And I don't need to be shoulded. I don't mind hearing input and feedback and weigh those considerations. But at the end of the day, for me, I don't want to be misrepresented or misjudged or misperceived, of course. But at the end of the day, the people that mean the most to me, where I weigh their opinion thoughtfully, like my family, that's who I'm going to listen to the most. And so harsh judgments are going to happen. I'm going to get feedback that I'm not necessarily going to like, but I can always go back to that. And that just keeps me, it keeps me heading in true north of what I know to be true of me.
So I'm Alapaattikoski. I'm an entrepreneur. I've been building businesses for over 20 years. Started over in Finland while I was in college with an idea, and definitely a lot of self-doubt. And throughout different businesses that I've started, failed, succeeded, it's still always the game to play is that if this risk, is it worth it? Should I do it? Am I going to lose? Am I going to lose myself confidence again and work towards it? And these amazing ladies we have here today, they are professional coaches, and especially how do we manage this and become better leaders and entrepreneurs. And of course, we're not here to listen to me, so I'm happy to introduce Dr. Rachel Jeffres, an executive coach and a leadership development expert with a doctorate in leadership theory and organizational psychology. Is that correct, right? So Rachel brings over 25 years of experience guiding senior leaders across higher education, government, nonprofit, and private sectors. With certifications in emotional intelligence, Clifton Strengths, and Lego Serious Play, her coaching blends compassion, strategy, and mindset science to help clients lead with clarity and confidence. Welcome.
Thank you.
And we have Meena Hissami. We've worked together with a couple of different companies that I've been building. She's a transformational coach, a subconscious strategist, and a startup operator. Meena helps founders and executives lead with clarity, conviction, and freedom. With over 20 years spanning high-growth ventures, including Metropolis, Brinter, which is my company, and Alilo, and a past career supporting C-suite leaders at BlackRock. So welcome, ladies. Let's give a good clap for them joining us today. Thank you. Okay, let's start. So our thesis today is you are the strategy. Can you explain in your own words what that really means to you? And let's start with you, Rachel.
Okay. So this is a really layered question, but to me, when I'm coaching people, the bottom line is you know what your next best step should be. But oftentimes, we don't take that next step because we have our own limiting beliefs, or we have our assumptions that we're making, or imposter syndrome, or feelings that pop up that keep us from taking that step. And so when I say you are the strategy, kind of the mindset that both Meena and I have, but I'll let her speak for herself. But in our coaching strategy, we're not there to be the problem solvers. We are there to be a thought partner and ask really powerful questions to promote thinking and reflection and consideration and addressing what those limiting beliefs are, because our belief is that you know what the solution is and could be, but it's just there's something blocking you from getting there. And that's our job, to help kind of dig around and unfold what that is and help you move through.
Meena?
Beautiful. Very similar. I think the lens that I come at when I'm having my coaching conversations and I'm meeting anybody, pretty much, you can ask family members, I'll talk to anyone on the street. It is like, how do you access that part of you that is so uniquely yours It's guided from some other place, right? So like I had a conversation earlier this morning with Kimber, and she was talking about this like business that she's building. And she's like, I believe in the product that I'm creating. I believe in it, but, and then there are those barriers, right? And I think a lot of us, we orient ourselves to think that the answer is outside of ourselves, the strategies outside of ourselves, the happiness is somewhere orientation outside of me. So then we chase the thing, we chase the dream, we chase the partner. And usually at the end of the day, we're trying to come back to a version of ourselves that feels good, that feels safe in our body, that feels proud of what we're creating. So I think that's when I say you are the strategy. It's the more you kind of go into what are the fears that are coming up for me, you'll discover and want to honor it comes from a really vulnerable place, right? Like, I mean, even right now, my hands are shaking. This is like a pattern I've had since I was little, right? Being in front of people, being in the spotlight. And I think the real opportunity is when we can look at these things that we're afraid of and uncover what is the fear that it's really speaking to that I don't even want to look at. And a lot of the times it's like, I'm not enough. Maybe I'm not lovable. Maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe I'm not worthy. But then we have to look at who's the one coming up with that interpretation, that story, that belief. So I'll start there.
Thank you. So executive coaching, leadership coaching, that's I believe it's always existed. We might have heard about it, or someone might have mentioned that they used it. And for me, it was a fairly new thing in the end. When I heard it from Meena, that's her job back in the days, and then learning to work with you and how you've been like helping me out to coach throughout these years. But can you tell me a little bit like what is this coaching and how does it work, and how can one like approach like outside help, for example? So if you could, Rachel, say a few words.
Sure. So just to clarify, make sure, just basically address what is coaching and what is its purpose and how does this work?
Yeah, like if somebody wants to kind of like approach this, like, hey, I might try it out. So is it like a therapy kind of, or what differentiates it?
Interesting that you say that, because I was just talking to Alexa, and what we were talking about is her field is therapy. And my master's was in therapy, so we were kind of talking through some of that aspects. And I said, when it comes to coaching, I kind of break it down to 4 different types of pillars that people assume coaching could fall into. But I'll briefly make the distinction for the sake of time. But there's a difference between mentorship, consulting, coaching, and therapy. So those are kind of the 4 pillars. And mentorship is more in the workplace, where someone takes you under their wing and they make sure that you're getting trained, or you have what you need, or can speak into your potential in the workplace. We all know that. Therapy looks more at what are the issues that need to be addressed and the problems that need to be solved. What was the backstory, looking kind of more back and fixing things. Consulting is coming in, identifying problems, and offering solutions. And I'm really generalizing here, just for context of the conversation today. But with coaching, we are thought partners. We are not there to offer solution. We are not there to be therapy. We look at, where are you at now? What's going on in your life currently? Where do you want to be? And how can we assist with the forward momentum and the growth that's occurring to get you to that goal or that endpoint? So that's just a really brief overview, but in general, that's kind of how I explain it to people. When people want to start a coaching relationship, I'm really big on, Meena and I were talking about this over dinner last night, like there's room for us all. Like there's a lot of people that in the pandemic entered the coaching profession. And that could be seen as threatening. I don't see it that way. I see it as, wow, that's more opportunities to impact people, to be impacted ourselves, to learn from our clients too, because it's a mutually beneficial exchange and learning process. And so a lot of people entered the industry, but I'm thankful for that because that means more people can have the opportunity to experience what coaching is like. And when entering into a coach, my priority is find your right fit. And whether that's me, I'm thankful for that. But if it's not, I'm thankful for that too. And I hope people are able to find their best fit of what works for them in goal achievement and goal accomplishment and personal growth.
Thank you. That's really good, clearing an understanding even for me, like what is the main differences between all
Look
these
at
different
that,
roles.
Tom. We had a moment, buddy.
Yep. Meena, what would be like the main idea? Like, how would you recommend people to reach out and find one? Is it like just go to a Google or ChatGPT to find like a coach, or
That's a good one.
if somebody wants to?
Yeah, I mean, I guess you have like the different avenues. A lot of the things, I hear this story over and over again about like, when people are really, I think, serious about finding, right? What is when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. Maybe not helpful on a tactical front, but in LA especially, I think there are so many coaches, and there are a lot of people either finding phenomenal therapists, phenomenal consultants, phenomenal coaches. I would maybe start there. Like, who in your circle do you know that you really appreciate their judgment, and there's just something about them that you would say, okay, I would have that conversation maybe with one of your recommendations. I'd say that. I think in terms of, if you're trying to find, like, being clear of what it is that you want to get out of the relationship, right? So for some people, yeah, like, it can seem like it's something having to do with the business, right? But it could be something to do with confidence. And there's like specialists for everything under the sun, right? Like, my bent has much more of like an energetic consciousness, intuitive framework to it. Rachel comes in with a very thoughtful, methodical, grounded perspective. And I think it's one of those things where I would say, as you're having that conversation, if you happen to find somebody or kind of scoping them out, check in and see how you feel when you're talking to them. You know, do you feel heard? Do you feel like they get you? And do you feel like they've actually come from a background or have some form of sense that this is something that they know well, right? Because I think a lot of times at the end of the day, from an energetic perspective, we seek out the people that have that thing in a lot of ways in their being that we want to emulate. Even if we're thinking of it in terms of, okay, their successful accomplishments, what they've done in the business, but how is their being, right? And that's a beautiful thing about like human beings. We energy exchange all the time. And there's that thing of like, you surround yourself with whoever you surround, like, show me the 5 people you spend the most time with. I'll show you your future. Because it's true though, right? Like, if you're surrounding yourself with people that are oriented in a particular way, that talk to themselves in a particular way, it's very easy to start to kind of match that. So same thing with the coaching or any kind of professional partnership. You want to make sure that these are people that you're like, okay, I feel good inside. I feel seen. There's something there that even as I'm at the precipice of the unknown, it feels good. There's something saying, yeah, keep going.
So finding the right one is the key, and just explore and ask and find and ask questions. This is probably a good way to get started, this event today. So
Can I add one thing too?
Yeah, please. Yeah.
I would also say, do your research too, because there are people that are like, I'm a coach, and there may or may not have been quality training in their background. They just function as more of a consultant and tell you what to do. So I just encourage you, and again, maybe that's your fit, right? Maybe that's more of what you're wanting and needing, but a true authentic coach that's received intensive training, because this isn't just a hobby. This is a passion. This is an industry. This is meaningful work. And I would just encourage you to be intentional in who you're picking and make sure it's not all about the credentials. That's why I was giggling when he's like, Dr. Rachel. I'm like, oh my gosh, I forget that I have it, because I did it because I was interested in the topic, not because of what the credential entailed. But it is important that if you really want to do deep work, that you find someone that has training in the area you're interested in. It does matter. So.
Yeah. I believe, it's good to have the full, and there's probably the few different words that I read here, Clifton's and Legos, these are the actual like certificates around it. Perfect. Okay, let's get into the topic back and some experiences and little tools for everyone here. Let's start with in your coaching. And Rachel, if you could answer me, like tell us, how do you help leaders and entrepreneurs distinguish or differentiate between fear that is protective against the fear that is limiting or keeping us small when we're kind of like not ready to, like what? Yeah, tools.
Oh, that's good. That's good. So one of the things I specialize in is change management and transition, which is a part of daily life, right? Everybody experiences that, and an emotion that pops up. That's a normal human emotion to come up is fear in the midst of change. But there is such a thing as good fear and limiting belief fear. And so as a coach, what I try and look for with my clients, I'll give quick examples of two different clients that I've worked with and how they've leveraged fear in a way or reframed their fear in a way that worked to their advantage. So one of my clients, brilliant guy, super, super smart, entrepreneur, highly ambitious, in the real estate world. And he was trying to cut a couple of deals, one in Miami, Florida on some property and one in Austin, Texas on some property. And fear was a big theme that came up, but not in a limiting way for him. He had some big risks that he had to take that we kind of worked through and uncovered. There's a lot of fear under the surface, but it was fuel. And he used that as fuel and strategy. And unfortunately, fortunately, the Miami, Florida thing didn't work out. The Austin, Texas one did. But because things happen as they need to happen, right? So that's why I corrected. It wasn't unfortunate. It was what was meant to happen. But the learning that came from that, for him to learn, how do I use fear and leverage it in a way that's going to be advantageous in the decision-making, in the partnerships I'm creating, in the fundraising that I'm doing, in the contracts that are being created, in the legal aspects I need to consider. All of that was terrifying, but it didn't prohibit him from moving forward. Another client that I worked with...
But let's, if you could answer, like, how did you help that person?
How did I help? Oh,
yes.
Thank you, Tom. Look at you coaching me. Thank you. So ways that I helped was, again, just asking really powerful questions. And one of those that is one of my go-tos that's a favorite, not because in a cookie cutter way, but because it's so relevant, is why? Why is this important to you right now? When fear is popping up for you, what is your natural response? Or another question that I like to ask too is, tell me about a time where you successfully navigated fear. Describe that for me. Okay, when we're talking through that, what elements do you see that could apply to your current situation so that it's successful as well? So things like that are things, when I'm listening to a client, because actually it's a lot more listening than question asking, and it's active listening, it's intentional listening. I'm listening for patterns of thinking and behavior and emotion that pop up. And so that's what I'll bring to the surface. It's not me saying, here's what you do about it. It's, hey, can I state an observation? Here's what I'm noticing. In the 3 examples you gave, fear seems to be a common theme. Why do you think that is? So that's another example. With the client that, were you going to say something?
Yeah, go ahead with the second.
Yeah, the second client, briefly, she was a lawyer for a city. So she was a government employee, worked for the city, and was so interesting because she had to be kind of a generalist and a specialist both. It's basically an impossible job with all the different things that come across her desk on a day-to-day basis. And fear was a driving force for her, but it negatively impacted her. And the way that it impacted her was she became decision paralyzed. And the way she would cope with that is she would research everything to death and just go down the rabbit hole of research to find the perfect answer, which we know doesn't exist, right? And so what it was doing was it was taking a reputational hit on her professionally because people were like, we need an answer, like we're waiting on you. And her non-answer was her answer. And so she was really fearful. So we spent time really looking at What is that about? What is a past experience where you've worked through that fear and had a good outcome? So you're capable. Okay, if you were to imagine this situation differently, what could it look like? So it's giving that sense of hope by asking a very pointed question or reframing someone's thinking so they can see potential different narratives instead of being paralyzed. Did that answer?
Yeah. And Meena, what would be like? How do you distinguish? What would be like a clear for you when you talk with entrepreneurial leader? Like, how do you help them to understand this is a fear that is good to have? Like, this risk is too big. I mean, there could be too big to fail, right? Or this is something that, hey, just keep fighting, keep pushing, because you need to make that big higher, you need to raise that money or something. So how do you help them to really realize like something simple between those two?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's kind of a little challenging to think about it outside of context of the specific, right? Because
You can use an example.
Recent client, his company's based in Dubai, and they've created this sidearm. And he's been the one tasked with actually going out and testing the thesis. And one of the biggest challenges for him was like hiring a CTO. And as he was going out there trying to find and interview, this one kind of came up more like, I guess this fits more in the realm of like trusting yourself or trusting what's coming up for you, which, right, if you're an entrepreneur, happens day in, day out. Like, you're making judgment calls left and right. And if you dwell too long on the last judgment call, you're not present for the next one that's coming up that needs your attention, right? And so he was getting really stuck on this one particular candidate because on paper, it looked right. On paper, it made sense. It would check a box, and it would fit the things. But to Rachel's beautiful way of portraying it, we're listening. Like, what are we sensing that the client might be saying or not saying? And obviously for him, it was hesitation. So it was asking, so what's there for you? And then we did a little digging. And then this is one of my favorite things is I had him close his eyes, picture himself being around the last interview that they had. And I wanted him to get present what was going on in your body. And then he kind of did that. And we've been working on that, building that connection to his body to understand what is my body saying? Because intuition is like one of those things that it's so integral to our experience, and every single one of us has it. Every single one. You would not exist till this, you could not be here listening to me if your intuition wasn't doing its thing. But it might not be happening in a way that you're thinking, because intuition is so deeply connected to the body. So do you ever have those moments where you're walking down the street and something's like, go that way? If you're a woman, you know what I'm talking about, right? And you might find out, hopefully not, that there was a reason why your intuition was telling you to go that way. So how do you do that in a business setting? A big one is checking on what is going on in your body. And so for him, I asked him, and I'm like, so what are you feeling? He's like, nothing. I'm like, interesting. Now, when you think of the partner and how important this particular role is, because right now it's mostly him doing a lot of it. So this next hire is critical, right? It's going to be the person that is either going to help facilitate and catapult what he's already creating, or it can be a barrier or someone who lies, like it falls flat, right? Have you ever had a relationship where you're like ready to go and you want to be engaged? Not literally, maybe for some of you, but you want that dynamic, and then they're just like, it's so in a business setting. So I asked him, and so then we got present to, okay, when you think of the partner, what does that feel like? Mm-hmm. And then this laundry list of things came out. So right there, it was like the answer was clear to her point, right? The answer's inside of you. It's just how do we help you get in touch with that?
And with that too, what you did so beautifully too was, and as coaches, we need to be really mindful of this, that if someone is talking a lot about I think in the analytics, that is like a neon light blinking for us to say, how do you feel about it? Or vice versa. And not in a schmarmy way, like, If you could be a tree, what kind of tree would you? No, but like, let's talk about you're so focused on one aspect and completely ignoring the other. Let's address what that other aspect is and why is it getting ignored. And same thing, if I have a client that's constantly, I feel, what do you think about it? So that's an important distinction, and that's a little nugget that you can ask yourself, you can coach yourself around too, as you're making big decisions or even small decisions that feel really big, is ask about both. What's my heart telling me? What's my head telling me? How are they matching? Where is the conflict?
That's actually right to the next question, is that like little tools, like for example, some standard that everyone maybe can take today already with them. We'll return this later on too, but like, is there some kind of like that every client that you go through the coaching that you use that same tool? Like, want to start?
Yeah, you go
Go ahead.
I'll go on this one. So going back to this whole, would you guys like to try an exercise? Yeah. All right, sweet. Okay. So this one is, it's how to ground. It's almost like the precursor, right? So before we even start thinking, and like even with sessions, and a lot of you guys are familiar with like grounding practices, right? So if you can, close your eyes.
What's a grounding practice? I am not.
Oh yeah, thank you. A grounding practice is, it's basically, one of the ways is picturing, like if you're familiar with the chakra systems, and the root chakra is located right at the tailbone. So a lot of the times when fear comes up for us, one of the biggest telltales is that we're not feeling safe in our body, right? That's where the overthinking comes into play. The body goes, this doesn't feel right. So the mind's like, sweet, we're gonna check out, right? And so this is where, do you ever find yourself like, if you are really stressed about something, big presentation, date, some looming deadline, some financial pressure, right? You can find yourself like in a spiral of thinking, right? That is like you trying to address something that's happening within the body through the mind. So I think one of the biggest practices is learning how to work with the body when these emotions come up. Like, how do you process through it? And so this exercise I'm gonna walk you through, this is what made a difference for me. It was a pivotal difference last year. Because up until when I learned about this, I didn't know how to be with the feelings that I didn't want to be with. I really didn't. So a lot of the training that I did around subconscious work, as a hypnotherapist, as a coach, you name it, ultimately I was trying to find a way to feel better, right? And I kept thinking, if I keep learning the tools, right? If I learn how to reprogram my entire subconscious mind, then we're gonna get somewhere. But for me, it was ultimately, I was bypassing the first step. How do I be in this body and be okay being in this body? And so then it becomes, well, how do I be with these emotions that come up day to day, right? That we want to escape from, distract from, try to think our way out of. So this practice, if you can, just get comfortable, go ahead and close your eyes. And I want you to just do a quick survey of the body. Notice your feet. Wiggle your feet a little bit. And get connected to the internal feeling of your feet. And then you're going to work your way up into your ankles, your calves, your knees, your thighs. And as you're going, just take an inventory of what's going on inside of your body. Do you notice any areas that feel tight or tense? Any area that just doesn't feel like it's flowing? Maybe a little numb? And just keep your awareness on it. You don't have to do anything. Just notice it. And then from your thighs, through your pelvis, your back and your abdomen, just keep noticing, connecting to all of these parts of your body that allow you to have the experiences that you have day in, day out. Moving up to your chest in your shoulders, your face, all the way to the top of your head. And now I want you to use the power of your imagination to recall and think of something that recently elicited some sense of fear. Maybe it was the fear of failing. Maybe it was a fear of rejection. And even if it doesn't come up as fear, some form of discomfort. And I want you to remember that moment if you can. Allow yourself to tap into that discomfort that you had. And number one, notice the power of your imagination, being able to do this in your body. And number two, staying with that discomfort if you can, because this is a muscle you get to build. Start to notice, where does that show up in your body? So for me, when fear happens, a lot of the times I notice it as a tightening in the stomach, or a tightening in the chest, or a clenching in the shoulders. Where is that fear coming up? And where is it within the body? And then I want you to put your full focus and attention where it's coming up the most, and allow yourself to feel it fully. Be with it. Breathe through it. And if you can quiet the mind and just be with the feeling of it, what you'll notice in time is it naturally starts to dissipate. If there's any other part of your body that you're noticing maybe something come up, go there too and feel that fully as well. Keep being with it. Keep feeling it. And start to notice your ability to be with it. And as it comes up and as you feel it, it starts to dissipate. Because you're letting that energy move through you. When you resist it, you clench and you hold it within. And that energy has nowhere to go. All right. So go ahead and take a few deep breaths in. Breathe out. So that's one of my, you can go ahead and open your eyes. This is one of my favorite practices, and I do it a lot. And in fact, sometimes I'll do it after I find myself already, like if my breathing is starting to go fast, right? If I'm finding myself being distracted and not being present. This is a thing where because what happens is, when the fear comes up, it can start to really fuel you, right? It can either paralyze you, we know, but fawn, freeze, fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, right? And it allows you to almost stop that in the track. So rather than having the remaining day or weeks be dictated by something, you get to move through it in the moment, release it, and then get back to center.
Yeah, thank you. That felt good. I mean, that's what 20 years I've been like, you get the same feelings for different kind of stresses. Yeah. Self-doubt, they go through. Even this morning I had one. One message comes in and they're like, I have to deal with this. And now I went to that, and it's kind of fun when you really fixate on it. And it's kind of feels, we entrepreneurs are known to be a little addicted to the self-doubt. Like, that feels good. But yeah, that'd be my personal problem.
No, but that right there. But actually what you're bringing up, I don't want to step over this. This is another thing too. So if you can learn how to transfer energy, so that adrenaline or that fear, right, that actually, when we talk about using it as fuel, if you allow it to integrate into your body versus repress it, you'll find that it can give you a jolt. It can give you a jolt of energy.
Yep. So that's actually like takes us to how do you turn these fears into your superpower.
Yep.
So
The
let's go back to
strategy.
that, the original, and this is a good example, but how would you utilize like that? Like what would be an easy tool for us to change that and fear of whatever got like is something
Yeah.
to into that, hey, today is going to be the day that I'm going to be.
Well, I think a lot of it comes down to your choice in once you have an awareness of what some of the tools are. You can choose to use it or not use it, or how often or in what way. So it comes to your choice, motivation, how it helps you. A way that, and this is the beauty of the coaching industry, right? Like this is her superpower for Meena. This is her niche that is amazing. And there's different elements and niches to help clients understand what their unique superpowers are, exactly how Meena had described that. So for me, an area that's kind of a specialization is I use different assessments to help people understand when those emotions come up, when those fears come up, who are you based on some of those assessment results, and I'll get specific in a second, but based on some of those results, how do you then use that as a strategy, which is what our overall topic is? How do you use that to help you in really practical, applicable daily ways to use that as a strategy to help you with relationship building, with fundraising, decision making, all the things you're faced with, all the stressors every day. Two really big tools that I tend to use are two assessments that are really well vetted. It's not just, oh, let's just do this fun thing online that sounds really cool and you answer 4 questions. I mean, they're reliable and valid in the assessments that I use. One of them is the Gallup-Clifton Strengths Assessment. Is it the end-all be-all? No, but I really feel it is a powerful tool because what it does is it assesses what your unique strengths are and what just is a natural inclination for you that's kind of your superpower that you can leverage in ways that help enhance a team, that help enhance you and your way of thinking and your way of being, because it acknowledges what you're good at. And a lot of times when it's innate and it's just intuitive, we don't think about the fact that we're really good at it because we just do it and we don't stop and think about it. And so the assessment helps give an awareness of that. Another one and it's really helpful with teams as well. So if you can do a team profile where each individual takes the strengths assessment, there's a way to gather all that data and show as a collective team, how are you functioning as a team? Where are your sweet spots? Where are areas that need to be addressed that you might need to take a look at? And then the other one, I'll get you in just a second. The other one is emotional intelligence. And I use that assessment quite a bit. And there's an EQ assessment and then an EQ 360, which can be used to have other people give input into how you show up on an emotionally intelligent way. So it involves some team aspects as well, but just talking through what is your level of awareness? Where are your blind spots? How is that keeping you from being your best self? Or in what ways is it forwarding you in your best ways so that you're showing up in a really powerful way? Were you going to ask something?
I just want to know the name of the first assessment that you mentioned.
The Clifton Strengths Assessment. And the company that oversees it is Gallup. They do a lot of political polls, Gallup Political. But this is their wheelhouse. And with the strengths assessment, over the last time I knew, and it's well over this, over 30 million people have taken the strengths assessment. And the most common strength that people have that have taken the assessment is achiever. And so I think that could probably be pretty relevant for those in the room. But what they specialize in and what Gallup does with a lot of that data is they look at workplace engagement and how is that engagement affected by people's strengths and abilities and how they leverage those in the work that they do.
Yeah, thank you. I would do one more question before we go to audience questions, which I believe like you might have here. I have questions, but we'll take them after the panel. But so let's say if someone in the audience is standing at an edge today, I believe everyone is somehow a little bit. We're living in a very world full of data, opinions, pressure from everything. Most recent is now the AI. Do we have a future? So facing fear and this uncertainty and doubt, what would be the one thing you would want them to remember if like they're going home today? One thing, and let's keep it short so then we can go to the questions. Yeah, Meena, if you can.
Yeah, I mean, mine goes back to that you have everything, you already have everything you need within you. Like you are the number one. This vehicle, this person, you specifically have everything already. So I think that's it.
Okay, Rachel. You want to add something to that?
Yeah, I think that's where, when it's things like data and technology and really relevant things, there are aspects of that have tendencies of being analytical. And so what I was talking about before, I think if you're noticing the feelings response to the analytical information. So like you get a pile of data that's super, super helpful. Is that information exciting to you? Is that information completely overwhelming? Do you feel defeated when you receive that? Noticing that and just paying attention to the response and the body response in those moments. That would be just a practical thing, because my guess is this room, y'all in here move at a lightning fast pace on a day-to-day basis. And when you do function at a really high level and you have to there's decision fatigue, right? It's exhausting, the amount of decisions, the minutia that comes with that. So taking just a moment, once in the morning, 30 seconds, right? In the morning, once in the afternoon, to just take note, how am I responding to this emotionally? Because all of this is very analytical.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, ladies, for these beautiful insights. And let's take some questions. We do have a microphone somewhere, so let's start there from the... Oh, yeah, I think you have already.
As we go throughout our day, there's always people looking at us, determining who we are, and we have an idea who we are. And then there's that third monkey on your shoulder that accumulates all of that and goes home at night and says, who am I? What's your way of determining, one, who you really are, those people you met throughout the day, and sorting through that to determine whose advice you should, or whose reflection you should take to add to your own body of work of who you are? Does that make sense?
Oh, this is such a good question.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Meena. You're ready.
You go.
Okay. Well, the first element that comes to mind for me is when I'm going to answer initially from a coach coaching a client. Okay. So part of our training and approach, and really this should be the approach of all coaches. I'm just going to put that out there, a blanket statement. Our standard should be to remain curious and non-judgmental. And so that's the frame of reference I try and go at. There are going to be people that me as a coach that are going to should me. And I don't need to be shoulded. I don't mind hearing input and feedback and weigh those considerations. But at the end of the day, for me, the people I'm going to listen to the most and feel the most known by, and where that matters to me. Like, I don't want to be misrepresented or misjudged or misperceived, of course. But at the end of the day, the people that mean the most to me, where I weigh their opinion thoughtfully, is my husband, my parents, my stepdaughters and their dudes, like my family. That's who I'm going to listen to the most. And for me, and I recognize I'm going out on a limb here, this might not be a popular opinion, but also for me, my faith is an integral part of how I function. It keeps me grounded and it gives me hope. And so harsh judgments are going to happen. I'm going to get feedback that I'm not necessarily going to like, but I can always go back to that. And that just keeps me, it keeps me heading in true north of what I know to be true of me.
Do we have more questions?
What would you say are some key personality attributes that you would want to show and to portray to, an investors to, make them realize that you are the strategy, you are the person that they should or want to be investing in rather than your actual product?
It's a great question, actually.
Yeah, so like how would I coach you to get to that place where you get to answer those questions for yourself?
Correct.
Okay, yeah. So how would you?
I don't know. Fire, belief in what you have, just the intensity. But I'm lacking words, and that's why I want to ask the pros. What are maybe from the question on the other way around is, what do you think an investor is looking to see on a person who they might potentially want to invest in?
Well, you're in luck. Tom happens to.
Well, yeah, it's a totally, of course, self-confidence is probably it, but there's some coaches for that as well. But yeah, I've been raising money for my whole 20 years of career, so confidence and definitely the support of actually having coaches to take away the self-doubt, because if you sense the self-doubt in you with writing a check, it's not a good sign.
Right.
We all know that. So that's but also knowing that being overconfident, overly, it can seen as this guy is doesn't necessarily know all the risk that he's
Exactly.
heading towards. So yeah, but it's just some balance between those two that I would personally always keep working with. And but every day, every meeting is a little bit new meeting. So
Right.
surround yourself with a great C-level or co-founders who can both, like I actually said it today, that bring both overconfidence and over-doubting almost, and have them called all the time, have a conversation, and then you can see and take the best outcome out of that, and then translate that to shareholders or investors.
Thank you.
Yeah. You had a question there in the back?
Thank you. I thank you, ladies, for sharing your expertise and wisdom. I'm curious, from a coaching perspective, how do you guys coach differently for individuals, like high executive operators versus coaching for teams? What's the difference for you when you're in that position? And the second question, I'm going to sneak one in there, is what tips would you give for these high executive operators and founders, entrepreneurs, people taking that leap, facing that self-doubt, to work with when they're co-creating and collaborating with so many different people to make their dreams happen?
Yeah, I can start with the difference between how I coach executives or on the one-to-one basis versus the group dynamic. I would say that where it's not that different is I do think it's really important to have the one-to-one understanding and relationship. So even if I'm coaching a team, having formed that trust first and foremost with each of the team members, I think is vital. I think it's having an understanding of what are the overall objectives and who's the one that's actually delineating those objectives, and then working with the individuals and the teams together to try to get there. So, yeah, depending on the team dynamics, depending on the industry, on the goal, I think a lot of those things can change. But in terms of what comes up during the actual coaching experience, it almost doesn't seem to really matter, to be honest, the context, right? Because we're all humans navigating particular challenges, right? Yeah, do you have any?
That, and sometimes, whether it's an individual or a group, it's really important to clarify, what are your main objectives for this experience? What are you hoping to get out of it? And sometimes the end result is the same as the initial desire and objectives, but oftentimes for individuals and groups, both, oftentimes stuff gets uncovered, and not in a bad way either, but like discovery happens and you realize, oh my gosh, I thought that was so relevant, but really this is the direction we need to head. And so part of it is that's the beauty of the art and the science of coaching, because it's both. It's structure and intuition, and it's moving forward and taking a time out. And there's just so many nuances to it based on the structure of that individual or the group. But I would say that's another component too, is that you don't always wind up with the initial thought or goal, that it can kind of veer a little bit. But in the midst of that, that's where some of the most beautiful deep work can happen too. And honest, candid conversations can happen. You guys, you're hip, and so this is, you probably have known about certain books for years, but Crucial Conversations is a really good book, and Radical Candor is another really, really good book, especially if you're talking about teams and team dynamics. Forgive me, I totally forgot the second question, but I don't want to gloss over it.
Do you guys have any, best practices, tips for people to collaborate with one another, knowing these different things they're navigating?
Yeah, I mean, this is front and center for an endeavor that I have the pleasure of being a part of, where the thesis is cooperation cannot perform competition. Shout out to David back there. And so when you're trying to collaborate, right, there's, I think, one thing that I would invite folks to do is always be in the back of your mind, remember, whatever is being communicated, especially when the friction points happen, or maybe the communication is just like, you're just like this, right? That there's likely a dynamic that's coming up for you and will probably be coming up for the other party. And where a lot of times that can be where it collapses, or disagreements can forge, and then all of a sudden it's no longer a partnership or a collaboration. But the lens that I always invite clients to look at it through is like, what is opportunity here? Like, so what is, right?
That's really good.
Like, what is this showing me? Not as if something is wrong, but it's such a vital tool for me to understand about maybe one of my own blind spots, particularly like if I'm getting triggered, or if I feel like I'm not being heard. Well, where else in my life is that showing up? So I think that is one of those powerful things where you can see that like anything that happens in your experience can be looked at as a gift, showing you where you're not yet free. I stole that from, I can't remember his name at the moment, but I love that. Like, life will continuously give you opportunities to show you where you're not yet free. So the fears that come up, the self-doubt that comes up, all of that.
A almost follow-up question to that, like, do you even want to achieve the moment where you don't have this self-doubt a little bit? Is it like a part of our being human?
Yeah.
Great question.
It's a great question.
I think like I like that, to be honest, to always be self-doubting and not be too bold and like too risk-taking either. So
I'm so sorry, Tom. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, go ahead.
May I ask you a question? Are you comfortable with? Yes. So your question about collaboration, if you had to, just so that I can understand more context, if you had to identify like one or two characteristics that you value in collaborative relationships, what might those be?
Curiosity, openness, and presence.
Beautiful. You can only control yourself. And so if you know that those are core values for you going into a collaborative space, you can only control yourself, right? So you can show up with those in a really authentic, thoughtful way. And whatever happens, happens, right? Like, how many group projects have occurred, as I was going through school, or even when I'm teaching different courses, I hate assigning group projects to students because you just never know what you're going to get. It's rare that the entire team contributes in an equal manner, right? And so I think low expectations, high desires of achievement, and show up with your core values and contribute in the way you know to contribute. But that doesn't mean you can't call people out or hold people accountable with kindness, because kindness goes a lot farther than, why didn't you, accusatory. But you said curiosity is a big one for you, so that's your superpower. Leverage that spirit of curiosity to find out, why isn't this working, or what about this is working? How can we recreate this? Again, you have the strategy.
Okay, beautiful. Yeah. We all have the strategy, I hope. So let's do one more question, and then we can call it a wrap. Do we have anyone there in the back there?
Firstly, thank you for your insights. I'm enjoying this panel a lot. So building on the second question, what are some attributes that are actually you try to remove from a founder? Or what are some things that you try to, what would be like, how do you say this, a deal breaker for an investor maybe, that an attribute or a trait in a founder? What would that be?
Again, Tom, you could probably answer that better.
Like I mentioned there's you surround yourself with advisors who are smarter than you, more experienced than you, and they'll have them guide you through this. It's probably the best tactic been for me. And I know we're all entrepreneurs here, and probably a lot of people are raising money and all that, but I mean, experiences are good. They look at that, and then again, failures, they're actually pretty good, to be honest. Like, be open about this and talk about those, because they tell you that your self-doubt, let's say, like with the topic, is you've grown with that, and you'll probably use that as your superpower now for the future raising of money. So I actually utilize those a lot more than I should. You should use them more than I use them, because you want to always sound too good. But yeah, that's probably one thing that I could give an extra. But there's a million others how to make confident for your investors, and we can talk about later about these. Thank you.
If I can add one thing real quick on that one, I think from my perspective of having been, let's say, a part of those conversations, partner to those that are in the hot seat in front of an investor, I would say, tactically speaking, and you could probably let me know what you think about this, when you put an investor on a pedestal, when you put a partner on a pedestal, when you put anything in your life on a pedestal that basically is saying, you're better than me, you have more value, or more this, or more that, then you're already setting up the dynamic where it's now like, please, versus walking in with, I am confident in whatever I've got going on. You don't even have to be fully clear of it. But it could just be like, I believe in myself, I believe in this product, and the pitch doesn't even have to be perfect. There's something that happens when you come in with that. I think that the investor,
Yeah, I would call it almost like the chase. Like when you don't need the money in your mind, you don't need the investor, that's when it always game changes. And it happens somehow like subconsciously, and I don't know why it always works like that, but we probably all have that experience from dating life or something. So, but try to get into that mode, even if you really need that check, is to make the investor feel like, hey, I need this more than he needs it. So, I mean, there's a lot of coaching behind that, I bet. So, and mentors that can help you to find that space and that trust in yourself and your product, that you're the winning ticket for them. Okay, I think it's time to wrap it up for today. If you both please share, like, if anyone here wants to reach out to you and maybe try some coaching, and how does it get started, like in just a few words, like in the internet or address or something?
I think my website link is on the invitation, meenahissami.com. You can shoot me a contact information there. I'm probably going to do a hypnotherapy recording for Subconscious around this topic. And I would say within the week, have that posted. So if you're interested, reach out. I'd be happy to give you that, to start doing that deeper rewiring.
Yeah, first of all, thank you. I really appreciate this opportunity, and thank you to Meena and Tom, too, for including me in this. This has been very meaningful. I'm an entrepreneur, not on the level y'all are, but I understand aspects of what you're facing on a day-to-day level, so I own my own little business. I love it. It's called the Key Academy. My website is thekeyacademy.net. I'm totally old school. I have business cards if you want one. And then also on LinkedIn, you're welcome to connect with me. It's Rachel Johnson Jeffres, without an I in Jeffres. I know, it's weird. Blame my husband.
Yeah, and I can highly recommend, like I said, Meena guided me through a couple of companies with different times and helped me through them with a great success. So thank you for that, and thank you, ladies, for coming in, and thank you, audience, for being here, and thank you, KINN, for allowing us again to spread the knowledge and love. Thank you. Cheers. Have a good day.